We'll get started in just a minute. Okay, it's 6:02, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Lancaster County Council to order here tonight on October the 14th. And since we do have a large crowd here, a couple things I would ask you to please cut your cell phones off and please remove your hats in council chamber, please. And I know you're all here, and I hope council will address your issues you're here for tonight. So with that, would you please rise and join Council Member Billy Mosteller as he leads us in our Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, thank you for this beautiful day that we had today. Lord, be with us with council tonight and give us wisdom and guidance as we do the business of Lancaster County. Thank you for all these citizens that showed up tonight that have concerns with the county, and we hope to try to address as many issues as possible. Lord, forgive us our many sins and have everyone have a safe trip home. In Jesus' name pray, amen.
Amen. All right, tonight, item number 4, we have a joint meeting with the Board of Voter Registrations and Elections of Lancaster County, and I'm going to turn it over to Chair Ronnie Wall.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to introduce to you first the members of the Board of Voter Registration and Elections for Lancaster County. Starting on the far side, Mr. Darrell Reed, then Norman Anderson, Brian Green, Tom Page here to my right, and I'm Ronnie Wall. I'd like to explain why this group is here in front of you this evening. Pursuant to Lancaster County Ordinance number 2024-1906, the general election, which is to be held on November 5th, 2024, will include a question approving the imposition of a special sales and use tax in the amount of 1% in Lancaster County for not more than 15 years or until a total of $405 million has been collected, all for use in funding transportation projects. Also pursuant to Lancaster County Ordinance number 2024-1906, the general election to be held on November 5th, 2024, will include a question authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $250 million in general obligation bonds of Lancaster County payable from the special sales and use tax described above. Section 4730A1 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina, 1976, as amended, state law, states that a public hearing must be conducted at least 14 days before the referendum after the publication of a notice setting forth the date, time, and location of the public hearing. The notice of this public hearing was published in the Lancaster News on September 25th, 2024. This public hearing is being held as required by state law. Lancaster County Council has graciously agreed to allow this public hearing to be held at the commencement of its regular meeting this evening. Before declaring this public hearing open, I'd like to explain that a public hearing is not a forum for the public to engage in a discussion or a dialogue. This will not be a question and answer session. Comments and views expressed during this public hearing are being recorded. Each person will be given 3 minutes to make their comments. If you speak, please speak into the microphone here at the speaker stand. Before you begin your comments, please state your name and address for the record. Your 3 minutes will start when you have provided your name and address. I now open this public hearing. As of just a few moments ago, no one had signed up out in the hallway and the lobby on the sign-up sheet for this part of this meeting this evening, this public hearing. I would still like to see if there are people in the room who came tonight to speak about this this public hearing about these laws that will be on the election regarding the monies to be collected in these two ways. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on that? Yes? Come to the front, to the microphone, please. And your name and address, please.
My name is Wade Tenbensel, 2323 Bless Lane in Ridge Hill. And you said it wasn't for questions and answers, but that's really all I had was, is this in addition to the original pennies for progress or whatever that was going to pave the roads? Or is this like, has that expired and is this restarting it?
This is a hearing, so there won't be a response, but your question has been noted.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
My name is Peter Miller. I live at 650 Monticello Road in Lancaster. I came to speak about the chickens, but since we're talking about an additional tax, volunteering to pay more money to taxes, I think that just about sells itself. So everybody think about that if you want to pay more money.
Are there any other folks who would like to speak related to this hearing? I want to be fair and make sure I see any hands if they're up. Okay, thank you. This public hearing is now concluded and closed, and County Council will continue with the rest of their meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chairman Wall. Let's give them a chance to get out of here, and we appreciate y'all serving on the Board of Elections.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on down to our citizens. No, we got to approve. Number 5, let's move on down to approval of our council agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Mr. Carn, second from Ms. McGriff. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval of our agenda tonight. And we will now move into our citizens' comments. Please bear in mind this is not a period of dialogue with council or a question and answer period. This is your opportunity to address council with your concerns. I ask that you address your remarks to council as a body and not to any individual council member. Please speak into the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and you will have up to 3 minutes to address council. Your time will not start until you have provided your name and address. Many people will be speaking at our public hearings on one of our ordinances. And to be fair, I'm usually not real strict on the 3 minutes, but because the amount of people that we have signed up, don't get mad at me if I cut you off in 3 minutes. But we want to get through this as fast as we can. All right. But first, we have on our citizens' comments, we have Beatrice Adams.
Good evening. My name is Beatrice Adams. I live at 7133 Sumter's Camp Trail in Indianland. I wanted to come to ask if our community, a state at Covington, could have direction or help with finding out where we go for a new development that was built like 2 years ago. We have, we requested for a civil plat for the community. We wanted to see if we could have a gated community. We have incomplete work in the community that the developer promised to do and wasn't completed. We have, we request the stormwater to come out, and building permits came out, but they directed us back to the council because they feel that we needed to come here to see if we could get some help to rectify things in the neighborhood. They have a proposal for middle school across the street from us in Harrisburg Road, and that will have a big impact on our community. So we just wanted to know if you could guide us and help us in what we should do and what ways we should go.
All right, thank you. Ms. Harden, would you give her a number to call? Ms. Harden will get with you and give you who to get in contact with. All right, thank you. Gordon Johnston.
Council members, staff, good evening. Gordon Johnston, 7401 Carmel Executive Park Drive, Charlotte 28210.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm here tonight representing Century Communities with regards to item 8C in your agenda later this evening. This is the second reading of a requested amendment to the development agreement for our Shiloh Woods subdivision project. And just as with the first reading 3 weeks ago tonight, wanted to just let you know that myself, along with our entitlement manager, Bryce Dimitruk, are here in the audience this evening and would be happy to answer any questions that you might have for us during discussion of the item. The agenda item itself or the request has not changed. However, we did supplement the information in the request over the past 3 weeks. We've provided an additional timeline of events over the past 18 months. That was at the request of council, so we'd be happy to discuss anything to do with the project, obviously, or the timeline itself. Again, let us know if there's anything we can do or if you'd like us to come back up for questions or discussion during the topic. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. Jean Dole.
Jean Doyle, 6030 Kings Canyon Way, Lancaster. I'm actually here to give praise to Marianne Hudson. I was here this morning for my training for working the polls on Election Day. It's probably the 7th time I've listened to it, but every time she does it with a great deal of humor. And I thought her presentation today was extremely unique. The 3 hours actually flew by. So she and her office did a great job. I probably had many, many phone calls reminding me of the time to make sure that I'm here. So just wanted to say thank you, and I hope everybody in Lancaster appreciates what she does.
All right, thank you. Ms. Simpson, we have some electronics. Thank you. Ms. Simpson, we have some electronic.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 21 electronic submissions. You have a physical copy at your seat, each of you, and a copy will be attached to the minutes for the meeting. We had 20 comments in regards to ordinance number 2024-1929. Those were from Anna Mullis, Jared Callis, Laura Lawless, Shannon Miller, Gerald Brazington, Laura Lothers, Wilson Brazington, Jacqueline Walters, Teresa Whitaker Lytle, April Martinez, Renee Watts, David and Rachel Wallace, Aaron Ayers, Grace Carnes, Jane Hawkins, Samantha Frank, Tommy Hawkins, Gwen Bird, Megan Jameson, and Carmen McCoy. We also had one electronic submission from Beatrice Adams, who spoke earlier tonight about grievances for the estates of Covington. Thank you.
All right, we haven't read these comments, but in general, is there any theme that comes across? The gist of most of them were the same?
Opposition.
Opposition, okay, thank you. All right, let's move on down to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve consent agenda items 7A and 7B.
Do I have a second? I have a motion from Mr. Mosteller, a second from Ms. McGriff to approve our consent agenda. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. Let's get down to item 8A, our non-consent agenda. We have Resolution 1284-R 2024. This is a resolution to adopt and implement the Lancaster County, South Carolina investment policy as required by law or required by our ordinances. Ms. Harris, Ms. Hams?
Yes, the
I
purpose.
need a motion to bring this.
I moved.
You already did it.
Second.
Second for Mr. Mosteller, second for Mr. Carnes. All right, go ahead.
Good afternoon. The purpose of today's meeting is to review investment policy. It is its objectives, procedures, and the expected benefit for the county. If you look at the slide, it shows the cash and investment summary. It shows our First Citizen General Fund account. That's the account that we use for payroll and accounts payable. You'll see the First Citizens Investment account, and also you'll see the state local investment pool savings account. And it shows the return on those, each item. Okay. Section 223 is investments. The county treasurer designee shall promptly invest available county funds in accordance with the provision of the county investment policy. The county investment policy is what Ms. Sabrina is going to talk with you about today.
All right, good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members. All right, we had a discussion previously around the implementation of a comprehensive investment policy, and we talked through the GFOA, or Government Finance Officers Association, best practices as it relates to an investment policy. And so I'll summarize the previous discussion, but also talk through some of the items that it was in council's interest that we add or adjust that investment policy, adding details to that policy. And so just an overview of GFOA best practices, we wanted to make sure that we included the scope of the investment objectives, roles and responsibilities, who does what, and for what reason as a part of the investment process, making sure that we choose suitable and authorized investments, making sure that we diversify our investment portfolio, incorporate safekeeping and internal controls into that process, as well as coming up with the criteria to make sure that we choose authorized institutions to support us with investments, outline our risk and performance standards and what we would use as a guide, as our indicators as a part of this process, and the reporting, those things that we would report along with the schedule of when those reports will be due. All right, so just to revisit some of the objectives as a part of the policy, we want to make sure that we have things done legally, so we've incorporated legal into this process to make sure to review the policy that's been proposed, to make sure that we are looking at keeping our funding safe, looking at risk factors. These risk factors are detailed, further in the policy itself. Making sure that we have funds liquid and available for our short-term needs, making sure that we can pay for those day-to-day operational costs, as well as protecting our investments and making sure that we can get the best return on our investments. The policy includes a breakdown of the different roles and responsibilities, starting with the county treasurer being responsible for the day-to-day management of our investments, that there be a collaboration between the CFO and the treasurer's office to make sure that not only are we maintaining oversight, but connecting with our outside counsel as it relates to investments to support us with the decision-making process. We recently met with First Citizens to be able to, kind of walk us through what our portfolio looks like with First Citizens, as well as set up a quarterly meeting with them to be able to help to inform the decisions that are made around our investments and understanding the market impact on the investments that are held there. And again, incorporating legal into the process and maintaining that collaboration, not just with the county treasurer and CFO's office, but incorporating routine meetings with administration as well. This is just a list of those investments that are in that category that are classified as suitable and authorized investments. And so the investment policy does expand on how we select these items, how we select those investors that are considered suitable, making sure that they meet a specific criteria, especially around the rating. All right, the last time we were together, we talked through some things that we wanted to make sure that we added to the investment policy, and one of those were the thresholds that we use with the different investment instruments. And so we do have a threshold already around our fund balance and making sure that we maintain an unassigned general fund balance of that 28 to 32% in our general fund. And the examples that are listed here are examples of what some other organizations that are similar to our makeup use as just those thresholds. And so these are some things that we're still working on with our outside counsel, but to be able to add as an appendix to the comprehensive policy, just some structure around what we will use as our thresholds for the different types of investments. All right, this is just a list of our internal control process, making sure that we are looking at routinely the interest earned on our investments, making sure that we incorporate internal reviews into our process, that the accounts or our investments are being reconciled monthly, as well as monitoring the performance to know if there is any adjustment that we need to make. All right, and the reporting schedule, this is another place where we want to add some additional detail, but it's just around these specific reports that we would provide monthly, reports that the Treasurer's Office will maintain monthly within their office, the quarterly reports, especially in the collaboration with the Administrator and the CFO and Treasurer's Office, and then the annual report, making sure that we schedule a time to come and present to Council a comprehensive report that really breaks down our entire investment portfolio. All right, and then just an additional note, because we do have significant investments, and so just an additional note around what we're doing to make sure that we are protected. And so the federal insurance, or FDIC, is automatically going to cover up to $250,000 per depositor. And then outside of that, the financial institutions are making sure that we have collateral protection as well. And so those investments that we hold at those banks, there is a trust with the bank that's in the county's name to make sure that our funds are held there safely. All right, so next steps in this process would include reviewing that investment policy, and we are asking Council to approve that comprehensive policy as a resolution.
Any questions for Ms. Harris?
I just got a comment. I am glad to see the improvements in the investment policy, and I'm glad that we will be reviewing it annually before council and also meeting quarterly with others that are involved with the policy. I guess my question is, will this help with our ratings at all? I know we are already classified AA.
AA plus.
And don't know whether this will look good at our ratings, improve the ratings. Do you know?
I know it did come up as a question, our internal policies around, monitoring our investments. And so we do have a AA plus with Moody's as well as with Standard & Poor's. So I don't think that it will hurt us at all, as we continue to grow this process.
The monthly and quarterly reports, are they shared with council too? It doesn't say that in your presentation.
It doesn't say it, but we can, if that's the desire, we can.
Well, I think it'd be good at least quarterly, because sometimes we get a surprise at the end of the year. We're glad we get it, because I can remember one where we got way more interest than we thought we were going to get. That would have been useful to know that through the year.
Yes, sir.
So I would say, I would go for quarterly reports.
Mr. Louise?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Harris. Is there a competitive bid process for the financial institutions that we work with?
There has not been in the past, but one thing that we did incorporate into the policy is making sure that we do every 5 years
Okay.
a formal bid process for banking.
So when would that competitive bid process start then?
And so if this is approved, then I believe our next step would be to make sure that we really sit down, because we have not yet developed what that calendar of events might need to look like. But I would imagine the next time, when our contract is up for banking, that would begin our, the bid process for new banking services.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Now, the only comment I got, you got $56 million in the general fund that's not even earning 1%.
I'm sorry?
The interest rate on the general fund, which is $56 million, and it's not even earning 1%.
Right, and so that's the account where we have our candidate.
You go.
We will call our county treasurer up.
That amount was as of June. As of right now, we only got like 18 million.
All right, that's fine. That's just
So that account,
that's
account
all.
is that's what we work out of. So that's at high end. It does not stay that way.
Well, thank you for the clarification. Makes me feel better.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Harris.
All right, thank you.
Any discussion up here?
No, I'm good.
Hearing none, I think we're ready to vote. We got a motion to approve Resolution 1284-2024. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. Let's move down to second reading of ordinance 2024-1930. This is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 2024-1910 related to the appropriation of funds and the approval of a detailed budget for Lancaster County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Ms. McGriff.
Second.
Second from Mr. Carnes. Ms. Harris.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this amendment that's before you tonight is a request to utilize fund balance to upfit and modify the new elections facility. And so the total requested approval is for $950,000. In first reading, there was a request by council that the language be adjusted such that the initial amount that would be dispersed is on $75,000, and that's specifically for architectural fees, and any amounts above that when they're subject to prior approval before there would be any disbursement for any additional expenses. And so this amendment also includes a request for council to make the designation for our advertising and promotional tourism organization. There is $58,739 available for tourism as a part of the 30% in the state accommodations sales tax. And so the request is that council designate the Old English District as the local tourism and promotion organization to receive those funds.
All right. Any discussion? Any questions for Ms. Harris?
I think I got a question for Dennis. This annual amount that goes to the Old English District, that's an annual amount, and it's determined. How is that amount determined?
It's a percentage of the funds, and so yes, next year it's roughly, because this is 2 years allocation, so it'll be less next year, about $30,000 a year.
Just wanted to clear that up.
Any more questions for Ms. Harris? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any Any more discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote on second reading of ordinance 2024-1930. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise, we have unanimous approval. We'll be moving down to ordinance 2024-1932. I will be recusing myself from this one because I do have a vested interest in this property.
Okay, we have second reading of ordinance 2024-1932, an ordinance to amend a development agreement with Century Communities Southeast LLC in accordance with the Unified Development Ordinance. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Mr. Mosteller and a second from Ms. McGriff. Do we have any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have voted against this development consistently, and I voted against this development and ordinance and development agreement. In my opinion, the development agreement doesn't give very much. It gives $500 to the schools. There's nothing in there for fire or EMS, and there is no rooftop fee.
Have any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. This, where they're wanting this extension, I think they've done their due diligence with their time frame of looking back at the information they give us. They look like they've been real busy in a year's time trying to do what they need to do, but they're running out of time with it. And I don't have a problem with extending it time with them.
Mr. Chair, I agree with Mr. Mosteller. According to the request is to extend the development agreement, and the timeline shows that there's been very much activity trying to get it done. So I think tonight we're talking about extending the develop agreement.
Sure. I've also spoken with the developer, and I understand the timeline and what they've been through, and a lot of it has been related to Lancaster County Water and Sewer District approvals and those types of things. I normally, as you all know, would not be in favor of any development, but this has already been approved. This is simply an extension of the time frame for them to be able to get their documents in order. They have expended a significant amount of funds to get to this position. I have reached out to them. I have concerns about how much time they're asking for, and I wanted to clarify because I want to make clear this is the only extension that I will approve. So just want to be clear about that. So whatever timelines you're requesting, just make sure you've got enough time that you've built it in there.
Thank you, Mr. Luis. Do you have any other comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Passes 4-4, 1 against, and 1 abstention.
Let's move on down to D, second reading of ordinance 2024-1934. This is a ordinance to approve a temporary construction and permanent easement grant to Lancaster County Water and Sewer District upon real property owned by Lancaster County and located at the regional park off Norman Forest Road. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. McGriff. I have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Mosteller. Mr. Marstall, Ms. Merck DuPont.
Mr. Chairman and council members, as you highlighted, this is a second reading. This is located off of Norman Forest, which serves the Roseland neighborhood, but also is located on the 84 acres owned by the county for regional park. It's been factored into the regional park design and is planned to serve a greater area kind of through the spine or center of the county off of Highway 521. Working with the Water Sewer District, it will serve a number of neighborhoods to be developed, and it is your consideration for second reading.
All right. Any questions?
I got one question. If it's coming through our regional park, which I don't have a problem, but it is figured into where it's not going to give us any issues within our park.
Correct. The design has always factored this as coming through. So, yeah, it is designed with that.
All right, any more questions? Hearing none, I think we're ready to vote. All in favor of second reading? Go ahead.
I was trying to find
I'm sorry.
my questions. Sorry for the rain delay. So who is benefiting from this easement?
The water sewer district and the customers that they're serving, so some of the developments, but also the regional park, it'll help bring water. But I would say it's serving multiple parcels throughout the region.
So it's benefiting some of the adjoining residential
That's my understanding,
developments?
particularly including the Roseland adjoining neighborhood.
Okay, so can the Roseland development move forward without this easement, without a significant financial burden on the developer?
I don't have that answer from the water sewer district. I think it has been long planned. It'll also serve, my understanding is it'll also serve the commercial district that is planned adjacent to Norman Forest Drive.
And I guess one of the other questions, have we finalized our plans for our property?
For the regional park, yeah, we said the initial design that we've done has been around this strip 30-foot wide for the easement.
The reason why I'm asking is because I think in one of the prior committee of the whole meetings, we had heard that there were substantial issues with the park. So some of those initial plans may need to be adjusted. So I think Mr. Graham's point, are we sure that we're not going to need any portions of these easements as we do that reimagining of the park in order to account for the financial situation that it's in right now?
Yeah, we have accounted for it because when you look at how the water sewer runs, a lot of it is along the topography when it runs down along the creeks and streams and nearby. And so that's been, I think, the factor. The preferred path has been communicated. If there's something that, if we as the owners don't want to do that easement for the preferred path, which is outlined here, but we've accommodated it with the design. But again, it generally flows along the creek flow.
Okay. Are we receiving any compensation for the provision of this easement?
No.
Should we?
Potentially, I mean, as we have utility partners as we go forward, I think, trying not to quote me, but I think there could potentially be a $2,000 fee I'm looking for here that we might charge.
I guess my point is it just seems odd that
$2,400.
if we're granting an easement that's benefiting some commercial or residential developments, we should get some compensation for it, particularly because of the situation that we're in with the regional park and in the event that we may be able to run into some issues. And the other thing that I'd want to ensure is that we're also flexible in our ability to use any areas and reroute this as we draft that easement, so that if we do run into some issues or we do need to utilize any portion of the park, we can still do so.
Mr. Moss.
If you want to propose that for, or table this for a conversation between their council and us, that's fine in terms about route adjustments or whatever it may be, but they've done the survey work on this, and this is the proposed route that has been reviewed by our park development team.
I'd like to just see some flexibility for us in the event that we do need to utilize some portion of these areas for our purposes for the park. And then I'd like to consider utilizing some compensation of some sort if it's benefiting some other third parties.
It's, any sewer would have to run along a creek, and water lines would generally run along the road. So, you know, that's another, well, I don't guess they're a public utility, but, I mean, we work closely with Lancaster County Water and Sewer, and try to ask them for $2,000 or $3,000, I don't think is good for relationships between the water and the sewer, because we do have industrial parks that do not have sewer there. So,
And I think it's the benefit of the community. You work together to benefit others, not for our sake, but the sake of our citizens and our businesses. So they work with us, we work with them, and it's just a good partnership. That's the way I look at it.
But I am concerned about the redesign and whether this easement's going to interfere with that. I mean, you're Mr. Marshall, you're talking in very general terms. You don't think generally it won't, but that's not a good answer, really.
Did you not say that the both had met and determined the area? So I think that discussion was done with all the planning to get to this far. Surely they would not talk to each other and make plans on where any line would be. So I think it's a moot question, because I think we're not in a position to make that determination. We look to the experts to do that, and hopefully that they've had that conversation. The only thing I would want to know is they had the conversation. I'm sure they did.
Well, I understand the point that if there is going to be some change to the park design, which we've talked about last one, I can understand the concern. So we've identified it's a 30-foot wide sanitary sewer easement. So that's the 30-foot wide is their standard. Yes, it does generally run along the creek that is on the land. So I don't see any adjustments to the park design having an impact on this, just because we know generally where it's going to go, and we wouldn't push dirt or whatever into the stream areas and different things. But I understand the point that we can have that conversation some more, but we've got the gist of it already. Path has been communicated, and the current design of the park has been designed to accommodate that.
And typically, if this were a private property, there would be compensation tied to it, correct? It's not that the Lancaster County Water and Sewer District pays for it. They would either have to condemn it, and then they get compensation that way.
In a private setting, yes.
Correct.
Would it be beneficial just to have a conversation with the Water Sewer District? I'm sure there will be tap fees and things of that nature for the park. Maybe we can trade the easement for those tap fees.
That's a great suggestion.
That's a good suggestion, because we know we might have a good relationship with them, but they're going to charge us tap fees.
And what are the tap fees? What are the tap
They could be
fees?
in the thousands.
Could we make sure if this passes second reading that we have a map with the easement on it for third reading? I don't know, is it in the packet?
It is.
It's in the packet.
It basically goes around the right hand along,
The eastern side of the property?
yeah, the eastern side of the property, and then sort of loops up towards the northern side. I mean, it's not right on the property line. It's a little ways in, so.
Would you have somebody from Lancaster County Water and Sewer make sure they're here at third reading?
Yep.
If it passes.
Is this sewer lines and stuff going to be buried, or are they just going to run it above the ground?
No,
like
it's buried.
some of-
Buried.
Everything buried, okay. Because they do run a lot of sewer lines and stuff through around Coral creeks that it's above, it's on stands. So I don't want that, so.
And do they usually waive the tap fees if we're working on a project together, Dennis?
Yes, and in a few limited instances I'm aware of, yes, we've had different arrangements.
I
Now
thought
they-
that was normally done, so.
Yeah, but again, this is considered a trunk line for them because it's going to serve a bigger region. So I don't know how they're thinking about taps into this versus maybe some of their other smaller lines.
When we were on the school board, we traded property for tap fees for what is now Indian Land Middle School, I guess.
And I know that
That was
conversation.
about $40,000 or
yeah.
$50,000 at that point in time.
But that conversation is usually held in the negotiation.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Marstall, would you have those conversations before third reading? All right, any more discussion? I think we're ready to vote on second reading of orders 2024-1934. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, likewise. Second reading of ordinance 2024-1934 passes by a vote of 4-4 and 2 opposed. All right, let's get down to 80. I think that's why 99% of the people are here tonight. And the way this works, we do have a public hearing. And since we do have a public hearing, staff, Ms. Harding, will go through a presentation for council, and she will explain what's going on, and council will communicate with her. We won't be going back and forth between council. After we have had all our discussion with her, we will open the floor up for the public hearings, and everyone will be entitled to speak up to 3 minutes. And if, with this many people signed up, if at some point people have already stated your points, if you want to get up, you're not going to hurt our feelings if you if you don't speak. So that's just the way it'll work. But when you get down to 17th or 18th person, all of them have made their points. So let's get started. We have our public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2024-1929. This is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, the UDO, chapters 2 and 5, to amend regulations related to backyard pens and coops. And we have Ms. Allison Hardin.
Yes, sir. Thank you. To give you some background on why we're here, we are acting on an application from the public to amend the code. Sherry, do I need to back up? Okay. The applicant is Jeffrey Monig at 8711 East Meadow Ridge Drive or Road. His property is zoned LDR, low density residential. He was issued a after a complaint was received regarding the number of small animals he had on his lot. And when the time expired for a variance to be discussed before BZA, the alternatives are you can comply or you can ask to change the law. Mr. Monig has suggested changes to the law. The current code that we have on board, on the books for backyard pens and coops is in section 5.10.4 of the code. It's on the screen. It's also available on our website in the UDO. Some of the current code conditions that I want to make clear, because there's been some misunderstandings in the public discourse, is that this does not cover cats and dogs. This regulation does not, and it specifically speaks to it in the code that this does not provide, it does not add to, it does not address cats and dogs as pets. It does not also apply to the rural zones. And I have a map that will show the areas that it does not apply to. So if you live in the rural zones, and those are the AR, the agricultural rural, the residential rural, the rural neighborhood, this will also not apply to you. You are allowed to have chickens and other small animals in that without having to look at this code for guidance as to number or placement or the like. It does apply a limit to the number of small animals that you can have per acre. And I'm saying small animals instead of just chickens because in the code it says that this applies to poultry, rabbits, or other similar small creatures. That is the existing code that we have today. There are also additional codes relating to pet ownership and animal care that are in the general code. Those are enforced by the sheriff's office and the animal shelter, but this is about the zoning code. The way we enforce this is when we receive a complaint, we go out and we evaluate it to see if there is a violation. And if there is one, then we process with the code violation process. There has also been some concerns about the code enforcement staff. Are they or aren't they able to go on site? South Carolina state law, section 5732, says that code enforcement staff have the right to operate on public and private land in the course of their duties. So the applicant's request and the staff's reply is how this has been set up in your report. The applicant seeks to amend the UDO rules. Staff supports some of the edits to clarify, especially the ones to clarify regulations, and staff generally supports the applicant's proposal. We have added additional tweaks to it that would align to Lancaster County regulations and more closely to surrounding jurisdictions in South Carolina. We did a survey of the jurisdictions around the state that do have regulations regarding this. Overall concerns that we have anytime we're putting down a regulation that relates to animals and to neighborhoods, we want to maintain the ability to have both agriculture and residential zones to have small animals like chickens while respecting the rights of others equally. We want to maintain the health of both the animal and the family. We want to maintain water quality. And we want to put appropriate guidance in such uses in denser areas, but few to no regulations on areas where larger lots prevail. The reason that we do that is because when people live closer together, the impacts of what you do in your backyard with animals that create nuisance waste or create smells and the like, or it's harder to mitigate when you have a lot less space. The more space that you have, like the larger tracts of land in the agricultural zones, the easier it is to mitigate. So areas on the map shown in green right now have no restrictions on putting pets or putting small animals in coops and pens on the lot, and they will not have under this application. We have not amended that. We have not changed that. In fact, we've clarified it to make sure that all of those zones are excluded from additional regulation. If you want to have a backyard pen or coop on your property, that's totally fine. And there are paper copies at Mr. Marstall's desk if you need a paper copy to view it a little closer. So these areas can have backyard pens and coops for chickens, poultry, other poultry, birds, rabbits, other small animals. We do not have any regulations that say the number that you're allowed or limit that. We don't have any regulations that say what size pen you have to have. We don't have anything. This is totally in the agricultural realm. What we did with this code, we also proposed to add in the school district because the schools also have animals as part of their educational proceedings. And under the INS zoning, which are school districts, it also covers churches where scouting activities or other type of learning activities are held, that those would be open to this without regulation either. So these areas are not proposed to have regulation. I want to just make sure that that's clear. So the areas that are proposed to have regulation are those that have denser housing neighborhoods. In our current code, we have a break at 2 acres or more and 2 acres and under. We look at that as an opportunity to use that as a reasonable amount of space to have to start worrying about how things are getting when it's less than 2 acres per lot. The residential zones that are shown on the screen are proposed to have some kind of guidance and regulation applied. That's the low-density residential, the medium-density residential, manufactured housing, and professional business. Professional business is the only one we propose to put it in because the professional business zone also allows for residential, and we don't want to exclude folks with residential properties that just happen to be zone PB. As we go through the code, you'll see that we have put in some exceptions that make sure that people aren't just leaving chickens at a business over the weekend and the like without any kind of monitoring. We do not propose that the allowances be added into the high-density residential zones or any mixed-use zones because those zones tend to have very small lots, or when you have mixed uses, you have lots of different activities. There's a lot more movement back and forth, and we think that that's a bad fit based on our evaluations. So these are the areas where the proposed changes may affect them. Yes, sir.
Many LDR parcels, MDR parcels are much larger than 1 to 2 acres.
Correct.
Why would we won't have a concern when somebody has a 5-acre LDR?
We have put in the provisions and based on acreage, how many animals that would be allowed, so that if you have more acres, you have more opportunity.
But you also got in there a lot of regulations that they're going to have to follow.
Mm-hmm. The applicant brought in a slate of regulations to propose. The staff evaluated. We could support some if the council supports it. There are others that we thought needed to be tweaked. And if you decide that this goes forward, then that's up to y'all. That's your decision. But we did the best we could with what we were provided by the applicant.
So what are you recommending? I got you said the applicant did this, you did that. So what are you recommending?
Well, if you want to go forward with this is what we recommend. If you don't, that's fine too. We don't have a distinct recommendation on one or the other. This is something where you have to weigh the pros and cons and go forward. If you want to go forward, we recommend as we put it in the code. If you don't want to go forward, we go back to where we were, and we're okay with that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So it's not determined by the zoning, but it's determined by the size of the acreage.
It's both.
Both.
Correct. It's there are no regulations on numbers of animals per lot in the green zones. There are existing regulations in the yellow zones, and there was a proposal to amend that, and staff has made comments based on that.
One, and then.
Yep.
So, what brought about this one sighting or one person got?
Yes.
And we're looking at making changes because of that?
Yes.
Can I? No, hold on.
All right, hold your applause, please.
That is an excellent point. So let me bring it back to that. So what exactly was the issue that this person brought up?
The person brought up the issue that there was some, what he believed was not clarification in the code. We as staff are aware of that, and we have this issue in other places of the code as well. We have a practice that we handle that is a practice that all zoning officials follow, that if you have a place where you need a clarification, you can make a memo that says this is how we apply it. You put it in the code, it becomes part of the code. At that point, if there's a violation, the process goes to BZA variance. The applicant did not take advantage of the opportunity for the 30 days after that to go through the proper thing for a variance to have that changed for himself.
I understand. So let me ask this clarification, because you're saying that it requires a clarification, correct?
Which we did.
And you claim that there was a violation on this property.
Yes.
How large is this property?
Just over 1 acre, if I remember correctly.
So it's over 1 acre. And what's the zoning designation?
LDR.
Under the permitted uses of our code, does LDR allow for backyard pens and coops?
LDR does allow for backyard pens and coops.
So where exactly was the violation? Was it in section
The violation was
5.10.4?
The violation was in 510.4. The way that it is interpreted, because it has been interpreted this way by the administrator and has been documented in the book, that there was an error in the code when this was written, that the backyard pens and coops applications were to apply to the LDR as well.
I'm looking at that. So 5.10.4.
Yeah.
Can you look at the heading for 5.10.4 and tell me exactly what it applies to?
I can tell you that it says MDR, PB, INS, and IMX.
It does not say LDR, correct?
It doesn't say that now. What it does say in our
So let me
May
just
I
clarify. No.
finish?
Let me finish, because that was a question. Does it state LDR? It does not.
No.
The county has taken the position to add LDR as a restriction when nobody has approved that. Nobody has said that. The county has made that up out of whole cloth.
It is an error from the previous
It is
document.
an error, so how is it a violation if the county has made an error?
Because we fixed it through an interpretation with the zoning code.
The county can't fix and make up an LDR zoning. I think that's what these people are here for. The county is doing an extreme overreach.
No clapping.
So let me get this straight. What this person wanted was just a clarification of what the code actually says and not to be held in violation. Because right now, the way that this county is interpreting it is every single person who owns over an acre of LDR land is in violation if they have a pens or coops. That is a problem.
Oh,
So I don't even think this needs to come up to county. I think this is just a strict clarification because all these people, that's just what they want.
so the clarification process is through the Board of Zoning Appeals. And the Board of Zoning Appeals would have
There's no
clarified that for
clarification
the applicant.
required. It does not say LDR. It specifically says it applies to MDR, PB, INS, and IMAX.
It is part of the residential lots. It is the interpretation of the residential lots section. And that's where the applicant had an opportunity for 30 days to go to BZA and did not take that. That's the next step that got us here. If the applicant
Here's my
simply wanted
recommendation to fix this.
a clarification,
Here's my recommendation
you didn't
to
need
fix
to bring the whole
this, so that
thing.
it is abundantly clear. My recommendation is that we delete all the junk that's been added to the current ordinance, and we simply state that 5.10.4, we call it backyard pens coops. We put MDR, PB, INS, IMX, and say not LDR. Period. Simple fix.
Sure. If that is your motion, then we'll process it.
All right, hold on, the conversation is up here in between staff, please. And to fix this, since this ordinance has been brought up, we can make amendments.
Yes, absolutely.
So when it comes, when we have our discussion after the public hearing, if someone wants to make an amendment, council will consider that amendment. Is that, everybody clear with that?
Yeah.
And we're legal with that because this ordinance is on the floor. Okay.
All right. Ready to go
Go
through the
ahead.
rest of it?
I got one
All right.
comment.
Sure.
District 3 is my district, and it's a rural area, and a lot of my constituents have chickens, and most of them have contacted me. I think biggest part of this room probably called me, but I'm listening to your concerns. A lot of my residents out there in the rural areas, you know, they got 15, 20, 50 acres, whatever, and they let their chickens roam. I mean, I've gone to some of these people's houses, and the chickens come out and greet you when you pull up with your truck. But I don't agree with all this here. I think we're a little bit overboard with this. I support just leaving it alone and just.
All right.
And if the applicant had just come forward with a simple clarification, we would be reacting to just a simple clarification.
Understand.
The applicant came forward with a full-fledged list of criteria.
Because he was requested to do so. He was requested to do so.
All right. Let's, Ms. Hard, you want to continue?
Sure. So in Chapter 5, Use Regulations 510.4, the applicant recommended keeping and housing domestic small animals as an accessory activity on residentially zoned and occupied properties shall be permitted in accordance with the following terms and conditions. And we agree. We recommend taking out the INS and the IMX zones from those. IMX is a mixed use. INS is where the schools are. We do not want to restrict the schools. We added in some details on that it would be allowed on AR, RR, RN, and INS as permitted without conditions to make sure that was clear. That as an activity as an accessory to non-residential uses, it is not allowed. That means that if you have a commercial entity, you can't just throw a coop out in the back, because we want to make sure that the people that are responsible for the birds or the animals are there on site in case of need. Keeping and housing domestic small animals as an accessory to the LDR, MDR, MH, or PB shall be permitted in accordance with the terms and conditions. The applicant then said on the next section, and in these, the staff additions are in red underline for the first run, and second underline is the blue is the second run. Small animals allowed pursuant to this section shall be kept and raised primarily for the benefit and enjoyment of the occupants of the property. However, nothing in this section shall be construed to prohibit the sharing of eggs with neighbors. We absolutely don't want to prohibit that. We did put in a statement about commercial sales being prohibited on non-agricultural zones. There are state laws about selling eggs, and we do not want to get into having to verify whether they are following the state code on that or not. And we put in an additional thing about slaughter of small animals prohibited on residential lots and may result in criminal charges.
I gotta.
Okay.
We are going. I don't want nobody telling me I can't kill a chicken to go eat tonight. This is way overboard, and I think there's a simple fix, as Mr. Luis has stated, and I've looked at the rest of this stuff, and you can keep going through it, but I don't.
I'm here at your whim, sir. If you want to tell me to stop, I'll stop.
Does anybody want? I don't think we will see anything else. All right, thank you, Ms. Harden.
Yes, sir.
All right, anything else from Ms. Harden? She will be available after citizens' comments. All right, now, okay, all right, let's get in. Let me find my list of 17, 18 people. All right, y'all, this is a free country. You are allowed your 3 minutes. We're not going to deny anyone. And like I said, usually when we have had big crowds in the past, after 7 or 8 people have spoke, all the points have been made. You're welcome to speak, but we're going to go ahead. We can limit it to 30 minutes, but I'm not.
Can I just say
yes, ma'am.
one thing? Please understand, we understand where y'all are coming from. So with that many speakers, believe me, we hear you, and we even hear you before you speak.
All right. Okay, so let's put up the first one we have is Bobby Richards. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes, Mr. Richards. Do you need a seat, Mr. Richards? Okay, we will. All right, and like I said, we're gonna. If I cut you off after 3 minutes, don't be mad at me. But we got a lot of people signed up.
All right, Bobby Richards, 3445 Cedar Circle. I'm 76 years old, and I had chickens since I was 12. These people are trying to pass these laws where you can't have what you want on your own property. They didn't got no sense to get out of the weather. They don't want nobody to have nothing. I retired from the city of Charlotte, been living down here 33 years, never had a complaint about my chickens or anything else. So please don't pass all these crazy junk that these crazy people want. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Richards. Adrian Kroger.
Council members, members of the community, good evening. My name is Adrian Kroger. I live on 11183 McFalls Drive. I served in the U.S. Army for 22 years. 12 of those have been with the South Carolina National Guard. 3 with the 1782nd Street down the street. I've been to Iraq, and I've been to 5 hurricanes for South Carolina between 2015 and 2021. I am not from here, but I love this place, and I want it to stay the way it was when I moved here. Why is it that some people want to spend tax money on what amounts to a chicken Gestapo? Instead of spending money on teachers, police, firemen, roads, or infrastructure, they want to use our tax dollars to hire secret animal police to violate our Fourth Amendment rights. Will these chicken spies be getting warrants before they trespass on our land looking for alleged violations? 4 years ago, during COVID, grocery shelves were bare of eggs. Why would we pay money for the county to restrict a food source? Why would we pay money to destroy self-sufficiency? Furthermore, if hearing sounds food makes before you eat it bothers you, you could live in an HOA community. They almost ubiquitously prohibit all animals that live but those indoors. We live here because we like it just the way it is. We don't need tax dollars going to a chicken police force. We want to keep our chickens. We don't want this amendment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's keep, we have,
Jeez, they get on my nerves.
all right, please hold your applause. We know how you feel. It'll make this go a lot faster. And someone may want to speak differently about this ordinance. Herman Heath.
Good evening, council members. My name is Herman Heath. I live in Kershaw at 106 North Johnson Street. I would like to make a comment to clearly understand. First of all, my family's been here in the county for 113 years. I've inherited my family home recently about 7 years ago. We've come down, we've trying to get the house together and everything, and we decided to, like the gentleman before COVID hit, we had 22 chickens. Didn't realize there was an ordinance in Kershaw about not having any type of farm animal in the town limits. We were served a ticket back in August to be in front of the Lancaster magistrate on November 7th. Kershaw just did a amendment to their ordinance where they added a sixth ordinance, whereas to be a penalty phase and or jail time. My concern is that this not happening in throughout the whole Lancaster County, where a citizen can call somebody, have the sheriffs come up to your home, scare you to death, give you a ticket without a traffic ticket, and not have any warning or any type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, that's my concern, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. Lisa Pickens.
I'm Lisa Pickens, 433 Terza Church Road. I'm kind of Bobby's neighbor, and the neighborhoods are kind of squishing us and coming in, where she said the ordinances had their locations right now. So we could always change at any minute. Hopefully you're here so we get liberty and freedom, and the people that are moving in don't always understand anything about raising and butchering chickens, which I do, and I sell eggs, only to passersby, and most of these are foreign people who are wanting to buy chicken meat, and I just do eggs. So we're not really asking you to be a homeowners association, and even people who have chickens in their backyards, they just want to become a little more independent so that they can have the food security for themselves. So the people who have chickens and have gardens ought to be applauded.
All right, thank you. Josh Ellis.
Hey, my name's Josh Ellis. I live at 2651 Blue Jay Road, East Springs. I come here today. I think our neighbors worry more about our property than you need to worry about your own. That's how I feel about it. If you want rules and regulations, I think you need to go live in a HOA. I don't think it's Lancaster County's, spot to decide if we need an ordinance or not. And that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Christy Zimmerman.
My name's Christy Zimmerman. I live at 1569 Locustwood Avenue. I feel that everyone on the council understands already what we're going to be saying. I did want to say that I did like the increase in the number of small animals per acreage, and I thought that that was a good, a good change. But I did feel like there were so many regulations and restrictions in trying to describe the measurements of the coops, and litter and waste not being able to be put in a fertilizer pile. I mean, when you break it down, it really, you're like chaining these homeowners on specifically what they can and can't do. I think my main concern was, even though it is going to be like code enforcement coming out, are they going to measure everyone's coop? What happens to the coops that are already in existence? Are you going to regulate the chicks that are purchased from Tractor Supply? How are you going to know whether a chick is male or female? And who's going to be the one that's going to come out and decide, you know, oh, this is a 10-day-old chick. I know, because I'm an expert, that it's a male or a female, when most chicken owners are surprised a few months down the road. So I think those are mainly the harms that I saw regarding the new wording, and it was just overkill. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Pangle.
Josh Pangle, 1131 Society Lane. I think everybody here is on the same page, including y'all. The only thing I would say is I would remove MDR. I'm zoned MDR. We're on 15 acres, but my personal house is only on 1 acre. So I'm limited to what that is. It should be an HOA regulation, not a county regulation. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pangle. Peter Miller.
Hi, my name is Peter Miller. I live at 650 Monticello Road in Lancaster. I don't have too much else to say with what everyone else has already said. I think we're all of the same mind. I think there's a lot of bureaucratic weirdness maybe going on in some of this. So it's ridiculous. You read the regulation, it's very heavy-handed. I don't agree with it at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, we've got Jay and Lane Wallace. Usually I'll, just one of you. Okay. We don't give 6 minutes for two. We learn.
I don't need the whole 6 minutes. I appreciate it. My name's Jay Wallace. I live at 1798 Grace Avenue, Lancaster, South Carolina, 29720. Yeah, a lot of things have been said. I had been looking up some research, and I wanted to remind everybody, besides, I'm not from here. I'm originally from Alabama, but I'm a proud Southerner. And as far as I can tell you, Southerners all over raise farm animals and stuff like that, and I don't think there should be any restrictions. But also looking up, if you guys know, during World War I and World War II, our government told people to grow victory gardens, raise chickens in their yard, and I think that's something that should be allowed. I don't think that there should be regulations on that. My children were born here. I'm proud to live here, and to let you guys know, you know, that's one of the things that South Carolina is great for, is a lot of freedoms, low on the regulations, and I believe it should stay that way. I think that this council should change it. You know, I don't like the part about, you know, originally it was in there, especially with the roosters, because if you want to keep your flock going, they don't just self-replicate, okay? If they did, that would be fantastic, and I'd play that game all day long, but it doesn't work like that. My wife and I fell, obviously, for like government overreach, but I think that the city council, the county, should actually be like our U.S. government was during World War I and World War II, and tell all of our citizens, grow a garden, raise some farm animals. I mean, obviously, if you're in an apartment or you literally live on a postage stamp, there should be a little bit of consideration for your neighbor, but the rest of us, we just need the ability to take care of our families, especially like one gentleman said, you know, during COVID, it was hard to get eggs. It was nice not to have to worry about eggs during COVID. And in the recent problems with inflation, it's nice not to have to drop $6 on a dozen eggs, but I can send my little girl out with her basket and she can grab up the eggs for me. I also don't believe that, there should be a restriction of 5 small animals. I mean, be within reason, but none of us out here that I honestly believe are trying to have a chicken farm that you're producing for Kroger, Food Lion, Piggly Wiggly, call anybody. So that's how I believe, and I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Randall Reynolds.
Good to see y'all again, council members. My name is Randall Reynolds. I live at 2073 Old Oakland Circle. Most of you I know. I really never thought I'd be up here talking about my chickens, but here we are. I am glad to hear some of the conversations going on about this ordinance. A lot of people said pretty much what I was thinking. And, there was some stuff on there that really, honestly, didn't make any sense, especially the rooster. Me personally, I have one rooster, and the only reason I have a rooster is just in case I need that rooster. But personally, I don't like roosters because that's a mouth I got to feed that don't get nothing really out of it. But like the lady said, we're usually 6 months in before we ever know that sometimes that's a rooster. And I honestly don't know why we're picking on the rooster because, quite honest, the older I get, I'm kind of jealous of the rooster. The rooster gets to go out there and honestly yell every single morning. And I feel like older my kids, I want to go out there and yell with the rooster myself. But whoever wrote that obviously don't have hens because a dominant hen will also crow, and an older female hen will also crow. So if they were going after the noise, just getting rid of the rooster wasn't going to make any difference. But I really appreciate y'all listening on this. I honestly hate y'all wasting your time on it. There's a whole lot better things to do. I know a few of you actually know where I live, and we live on the same side of town. I would much rather you be worrying about putting a sidewalk in on Airport and Linwood so all the, well, y'all fill in that type, but we need a sidewalk because sometimes when you're riding down the road and you see a chicken, you be like, oh my goodness, I'm going to hit a chicken. But that ain't how it is on Linwood Drive and Airport. There's people walking up and down Linwood all the time. And if there's some subdivisions coming in on Linwood, please put some sidewalk in. So that's all I got to say. And I appreciate y'all's time and appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Dan Lesho. Okay, thank you. Crystal Keller.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Crystal Keller at Pfeiffer. I moved here. I'm 378 Craig Manor Road in Lancaster. I moved here about 2 years ago from the Charlotte area, and I have a whole 2 pages, and most of the people already touched on everything, so I'll just keep it short. But I moved here from the Charlotte area. The reason we moved here, because we were looking at a lot of other places, Locust, Union County areas, was because we were originally in an HOA. We did not like the additional regulations within that HOA, and we decided to make the leap to Lancaster because we could have chickens. We could make our own decision about what we wanted to do with our property. And I thought that was so nice. In fact, within our development, within our community, 3 other families moved along with us, and another family that we were friends with just moved as well out of the area because the regulations are too strict and they want to be able to make decisions on their own property. So I just wanted to kind of explain why we moved and why we are here is because of the opportunities that we have to make decisions on our own property. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Keller. John Hornacy. They don't want to speak. Jeff Monig, M-O-N-N-I-G.
I'll keep it short. My name is Jeff Monig, 8711 East Meadow Ridge Road. I just want to thank Mr. Louise for his time, his ear, lending his ear and give me the advice. Mr. Graham, I appreciate your ear as well. And I want to thank the rest of the board as well. I was put in an awkward position, and I tried to make the best out of it. I tried to lax the ordinance and make it easier for people to have small animals and chickens, and I just feel like the county did a 180 and put way too many restrictions in, invaded privacies and stuff like that, or the way they were wording it, it could have invaded privacies and stuff like that. So I completely agree with what you're talking about now. So thank you.
All right, thank you. It looks like Jenny Paquette. Come on. I apologize. I was raised in the South, and I grew up with a bunch of Baileys and Marshalls and Smiths and Mobleys.
I'm Jenny Paquette. I'm at 1179 Snow Drive. I think that y'all have hit on a lot of the most important issues. Now, I do request that the MDR and the LDR are taken out of that proposal. I myself have 25 acres, yet I am still on the LDR. So these rules, so to speak, would apply to me. I wrote a letter to my constituent, Mr. Mostetler, and I'd just like to read it to y'all tonight. I said, at a time when people can barely afford groceries, crime is running rampant, and there is a lot of fear about the unknown direction of our country, does County Council really think it's a good idea to take away people's ability to be self-sufficient and give themselves peace of mind? If Lancaster County residents in LDR, MDR, etc. can't own a rooster, how are we going to hatch out chicks? What about those who already have roosters? Are you going to seek these people out and take away their beloved roosters? What about the homeschooling mom who is teaching her children to be self-sufficient and raising meat birds or rabbits? Are we ready to allow her to be criminally charged if she teaches her kids how to properly dress and prepare one of the animals she humanely raised in her backyard? What about the homeowner whose house is situated at the very back of their property, where there is no room at the back for their chicken coop? This ordinance says coops and pens can't be located in any front or side yard. Who is going to determine what a clean and sanitary condition is for a chicken coop? This can be interpreted many different ways. I don't know if you've ever seen a chicken run after a rain, but it is not always the most clean and sanitary place. According to the new ordinance, a coop must have floor space a minimum of 18 inches off the ground. This would not allow for chicken tractors. This ordinance requires residents to request approval to have small animals. Then only if accepted, a permit has to be reviewed annually or renewed annually. Where are the funds coming from to enforce this? I think our tax dollars could be spent in other areas. This ordinance greatly tramples our freedom and quite honestly has so many holes that I believe it's unenforceable. And I really urge you all to reconsider this ordinance and to vote no against it. I appreciate y'all.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Isabella Mackey. You good, thank you. Brandy Stella, come on up.
Brandy Shoot Ronnie, 283 Lindell Way in Lancaster. It seems like maybe how this started out was a respect thing, like maybe one neighbor got mad at another neighbor due to lack of respect. Maybe it was the smell, maybe the noise, or however it started. But yes, I do feel like it is far-reaching and very strict on the rules. Because if you really want to get down to it, I got two neighbors that constantly make noise every single day, revving up motorcycles and, the noise with the music and all that. I've called the police multiple times. Nothing has been done, and it continues every day. So that's my complaint. An animal is an animal. It's going to do what it's going to do, because if you start getting into that, it's like, you're splitting hairs because you have complaints about dogs. People are not responsible owners for their pets, where dogs constantly bark all day long and nothing's done. So you just have to kind of be mindful. You have to first respect yourself and your neighbors so that you can live in peace, because this is going to be an ongoing thing of what we can or cannot, or what we should or should not be doing. And it's just, once you kind of get into telling people what you can do on their own property, it's just too much, because then people get scared to do anything on their own property. And as we're wanting to keep Americans free, right? So you just need to be careful how heavy-handed you get with rules and regulations. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. And what it all boils down to is having respect for ourselves and for our neighbors. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Randy Sandoli.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, Council. My name is Randy Sandoli. I live at 2070 John Everall Road in Lancaster, South Carolina. I appreciate and give thanks to God for the rights and freedoms we have in this country and in this state and this county. I do not, of course, agree, and I think that's very clear here tonight, with the motion and the proposed amendments. I think that part's easy. I think what's going to be more important moving forward is to keep tonight in mind, to keep the momentum in mind, and actually move in the positive direction of increasing the freedom in this county. A couple people have mentioned that here. I definitely stand behind that. I think that again, it comes from God, and I think we have an opportunity to uphold that for the people, as opposed to becoming more and more, let's be honest, we're living in a day and time when top-down tyranny is becoming the reality. Of course, our founders, that we're all standing on their shoulders, warned us against that. We're living in that time. This coming together right now is one of our last hopes. Again, so it looks like this is going to be an easy decision. What about all the rest of the decisions that are coming down the line? Can we remember the momentum that's here tonight and keep our freedoms in mind? God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared Callis.
Good evening. My name is Jared Callis. I'm at 293 Laurel Hill Road in Indian Land. Most of my comments have already been stated here. I would like to second or encourage as well the increase in freedoms. I did like the increase in the number of animals allowed. Anything that direction is great for me, and I think everybody else. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Wade Benzel.
Hello, I'm Wade Tenbensel, 2323 Bless Lane, Rich Hill in Lancaster County. I guess my first point or question is, why is there any regulations in the county? Some people mentioned HOAs and towns can make their own rules, but as far as a county-wide rule, actually I was surprised there already was one, and I would recommend repealing the one that's already on the books, at least as confirmed that LDRs will remain off of that list. I'm not sure how these rules came about, but it was a little funny to me. It said remove the rooster chicks from property within 10 days of knowing what they are, but you can't slaughter them. So I'm glad to see the government seal of approval on free-range flocks. So just remove them, let them go. And I agree we need to protect and maintain our freedoms, and I appreciate y'all here, and I just pray that y'all continue doing that for us.
All right, thank you. And Jeremy Murphy. Last but not least, Mr. Murphy.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Murphy. I live at 125 Blackman Circle, Kershaw. So I want to ask you, council, to remove the residential from that, because even though I live in the town of Kershaw, it has a direct effect on me. I moved to Kershaw in 2019. Prior to moving there, I researched the ordinances that affected me of that town. At the time, the only ordinance against foul in town was if it became a nuisance to your neighbor. That was very vaguely all it said. So we bought a house, moved to Kershaw. It was supposed to be temporarily so we could move out in the country. Then COVID happened, land prices skyrocketed. Therefore, we can't as easy move out to the country, right? So we did purchase a lot beside of us that was vacant. It was a half acre. Our total property is a little over an acre. Here recently, Kershaw changed that ordinance, as Mr. Heath had mentioned. I have never had a complaint from any of my neighbors, but as a responsible citizen of Kershaw, I went to every one of my surrounding neighbors. I asked them if it would be a problem. They said no. So I've had up to 5 roosters in town to slaughter. So we hatch eggs. It's to treat my boys' integrity, leadership, just good skills. And we live in an older neighborhood, and a lot of the original owners are still in that community. Some of these people are on fixed incomes. During COVID, during the increased egg prices, my boys would load up and go deliver eggs at no charge to all of our surrounding neighbors. I had one neighbor that has since passed away. He would sit on his back porch and watch my chickens. That was his morning hobby, was to just watch my chickens. So I'm asking you, if you would, please remove the residential. The reason being is when I approached the council members, one of the council members in Kershaw, about the change, they said it was to reflect more of what the county had, to align with the county. So I'm asking you, would you remove residential? Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our citizens' comments, and I'm looking for a motion to bring this matter to the floor.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Mr. Louise made a motion. Ms. McGriff seconded it. All right, just because somebody makes a motion to approve, we have to have a motion and a second to bring an ordinance before us, and now we can start discussion and make amendments. So at this point, anyone, Mr. Louise, would you like to comment?
Yes, I'm going to try to simplify this and make this go quickly. I'm going to make a motion to amend the current ordinance to delete everything in it and replace it with a simple clarification to leave section 5.10.4 alone, except that it would only be applicable to MH and PB.
All right. So that's, would you repeat that motion?
A motion to amend the current ordinance to delete everything in it and replace it with a simple clarification to leave section 5.10.4 alone, except that it will only be applicable to MH and PB.
All right, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Have a second for Mr. Carnes. Discussion on this amendment.
So you're you're taking out MDR as well?
Correct. So basically what this would be is it would liberate the LDR and MDR zoning designations from the applicability of 5.10.4. And I think it would also eliminate INS and IMX.
Actually, if I may say, if you're in favor of doing that, then staff would be in favor of just removing it altogether. There's no need for us to have it if you're only going to put it in MH and PB, because the only challenges we've had have been in the LDR and the MDR. So if you're going to do that, you might as well remove the whole thing. That would save us a lot of time.
Do you want to withdraw your,
I would withdraw my motion and amend it to delete all
will
of
you
five.
withdraw your second?
Leave everything as
Who made the Brian
Brian made the second. All right, would you
And
like?
then I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance to delete everything in it and simply make a clarification that section 5.10.4 is hereby deleted from the ordinance.
All right, do I have
Second.
all right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Carnes. Any discussion on this amendment? All right, okay. So at this time, we're ready to vote on our amendment presented by Mr. Louise. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise. Our amendment passes by a vote of 6-0. And we are, now we have to vote on first reading of ordinance 2024-1929 as amended. I think we're ready to vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval of ordinance 2024-1929 as amended.
Would this be eligible to be put on the consent agenda for the next meetings?
Yeah.
That'd be great for me. Thank
All
you.
right, we will take a break. And I know some of y'all know where I live, so please take those eggs with you and eat them for breakfast in the morning. Take a 5-minute break.
Oh, boy. Whew.
Okay, let me make sure I'm in the right place. E, F. Ms. Simpson, let me know when we're ready. We're ready. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. Lancaster County Council, let's move down to, I think it's 8F. We have a public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2024-1935. This is an ordinance to amend a UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 6, Section 6.11.3, to include a new road name extension option. Ms. Harden.
Yes, sir. This is a request from the 911 department to add in a new road name option. Sherry, would you mind making the screen active? Thank you. No, it's okay. Public Safety Communications has reported that the personnel have identified areas where road ends in places like boat landings, and confusion has arisen over the naming of those. They've requested the addition of the suffix landing to distinguish landings or roads that end in boat landings from streets, whereas normally it would say street or road or the like. This way they would have a more readily or easily accessible information just by looking at the address. Planning and 911 addressing staff have reviewed it and recommended approval, and the Planning Commission voted and recommended approval as well at their last meeting.
Any questions for Ms. Harden? Hearing none, we do have a public hearing on this ordinance, but no one signed up. So we will move past our public hearing, and I'm looking for a motion to bring this matter to the floor. I have a motion from Mr. Carnes, a second from Mr. Louise. Any discussion? Hearing none, I think we're ready to vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. I think this can go on the consent agenda. All right, let's move down to 8G. We have a public hearing and first reading of ordinance, 2024-1936. This is an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Lancaster County to rezone approximately 1 acre located at 2488 K Mill Road from neighborhood business NB to medium density residential for the purpose of building houses. Ms. Harden.
Yes, sir. As you stated, this is a proposal to rezone an acre of property. It is located on Cane Mill Road, currently zoned neighborhood business NB. Part of the reason it's zoned that is because it used to have a convenience store on it. The property has since been cleared of the structure. There is no more business on the site. The site is vacant. And so the proposal is to make it zoned to match the neighboring property around it so that the property can be used for residential. The property is zoned by MDR in all directions, and there are some small commercial parcels to the north on Kershaw-Camden Highway. The requested MDR district is not only compatible with the future land use category of growth area, but it also matches one of the goals of the comprehensive plan, which is to encourage renovations and redevelopment of existing housing in neighborhoods where infrastructure already exists and housing stock needs to be improved or made code compliant. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 17th. No public comments were received, and so the Planning Commission made a motion to recommend approval, which passed unanimously.
All right, we do have a public hearing scheduled for this, but no one signed up. We have one sign up for this one, or that's the next one, isn't it? We got one for the next one. I got it wrote down. I forgot. No one signed up for this ordinance, so I'm looking for a motion to bring this matter to the floor.
So moved.
Motion from Ms. McGriff, second from Mr. Mosteller. And this is less than a half mile from my house. For years, it was a convenience store, was a restaurant, and it's right in the middle of a residential area. And this is a great infill property to get some new houses on an older street. Anytime you can do that, you you'll get some redevelopment of other properties around there. So I fully support this. Anybody else with comment? Hearing none, we're ready to vote on first reading of ordinance 2024-1936. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval, and we will look for that item to go on the consent agenda also next meeting. All right, we have a public hearing in first reading of ordinance 2024-1937. This is an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Lancaster County to rezone two parcels, one being located at 8123 Charlotte Highway and zoned NB, and one located at 137 Dogwood Trail and zoned medium density residential MDR, and they're both proposed to be rezoned to the Regional Business District RB. Ms. Harden.
Yes, sir. This is another rezoning case. The applicants, Charity McPhail for Jimmy and Gail Wood and Scott Michaud. The property location is, there's two sites. I've identified them on the map. 8123 Charlotte Highway is the one that obviously faces Charlotte Highway. That one is currently zoned neighborhood business, or NB. The property to the rear of it, 137 Dogwood Trail Lane, is the official address of that site. That one is currently zoned medium-density residential. The proposed rezoning for both of them is to go to regional business, or RB. The property currently holds a business, Mr. Michaud's business, Unit Paving, Inc., another office tenant. The businesses currently access the property through a large driveway on Charlotte Highway. If I can go back to the aerial and show you on this, that there is a double entry point and a very large turnaround in that area. It makes it very easy for access to the businesses there. There's also on the property that in the rear that's proposed to be rezoned a stick-built home and a vacant mobile home. Upon the sale of the property and conversion to a commercial use, these would have to be removed. The nearby highway uses are commercial in nature, and the residential uses have off the highway to the rear. The proposal is consistent with the comprehensive land use of core mixed use, especially along Highway 521. There was a rezoning proposal earlier this year on property adjacent to this across the street. The property across the street here was proposed for rezoning, the property here was proposed for rezoning in order to combine with the property on the front. But that was denied. There was a good bit of public outcry on that one. But the Planning Commission held a public hearing, and even though we received a couple of phone calls for information, we did not receive any public comment at the meeting. The applicant spoke at the meeting saying that he is aware of the neighborhood's concerns and has always strived to take them into consideration, including the creation of a large double driveway so trucks could not access Dogwood Trail. The plan is to install a privacy fence around that area and expand the open storage for that property. The Planning Commission, after not receiving any public comment, made a recommendation to approve the request, and that passed with a 5-2 vote.
Could you go back to the map?
Yes, sir.
Or the overview. All right, what's going on there? Like in front of the 137 Dogwood, the 30,
So there's a house and a mobile home on the site.
All right, in front of it, are those?
That's a house.
No.
She's talking about the business.
The business, there's a business.
Right there, yeah.
That's the.
It's Unit Paving.
Paving company.
Unit Paving and a real estate agent.
Unit Paving. Okay, I got exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
Now the one south of it coming this way. Are these residential uses?
I believe it's a residential, but I haven't got that in my notes. I apologize.
Those are both residential
Yeah,
uses.
residential.
Yeah, I think initially when the other business came up for rezoning, the big pushback on that was they were going to still have to access Dogwood Trail to be able to access the property in the back, and I think that's why that was turned down. This one here, with it coming in off 521 and going through internally and through their property, I think that makes a whole different set of circumstances.
It does, but is there access to Dogwood Lane from that property?
There is current access off there, yes, sir. And the applicant has stated that they are interested in cutting that off to put a privacy fence behind there.
How do we make sure that happens?
We can't. That's the answer to that. While it's
No.
great, and I'm sure that the applicant will do exactly what he says. At some point in time, it's conveyed to someone else. If they wanted to pull up the fence, they could. That's not something we can put as part of the rezoning request.
If I lived on Dogwood Trail, that would be my number one concern.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So if we approve this, to Mr. Carnes's point, can they then subsequently sell that parcel, which has now been rezoned, and now that parcel can operate independently?
There is no rule that they wouldn't be able to.
So they could do exactly what we denied before?
That's entirely possible. At this point, it is a matter of, we think that the applicant has good intentions and does not want to do that. But there's no way that we can make that part of the ordinance.
I want to find out, it passed on a 5-2 vote. What are the concerns of the two that voted against it?
Same concerns that were on the other one, the traffic potential, even though the applicant has stated that they would cut off that access.
Is the applicant here? Is that you? Okay. All right. We do have a public hearing, and you are scheduled to speak. Do you want to go on and get your 3 minutes, and we will call you back up for additional questions if we have them? Or do you prefer just, I think we're good just having a discussion back and forth without you. Do you want to make a statement? Give us a few facts.
Good evening, Council. My name is Scott Machad. I'm the owner of the 8123 Charlotte Highway, and I've gone back and talked to the neighbors behind us, and I think we sent you some pictures showing a privacy fence that we put along Dogwood Trail Lane, and when we put that privacy fence up, you were accessing Dogwood Trail Lane, and I cut off that access to my property. I'm not looking to break this property up, but once I put it together, I can tell you that it's going to stay together, and we're going to take the privacy fence up because the neighbors would like that. I don't know if you've seen the current property, 137 Dogwood Trail Lane, but there's a lot of disarray in that property, abandoned mobile homes and so forth, and I could show you pictures. I have pictures of it. I plan on cleaning that all up and putting a privacy fence, and I've talked with the neighbors all up and down Dogwood Trail Lane, and I've assured them that that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be neighborly, that's what I'm all about. We've owned that property since 1996 and try to do what's right.
All right. So let's, we did, I will consider that our public hearing, is that legal? All right, so we're moved past our public hearing, and I need a motion to bring this matter to the floor. Need a motion for discussion, please.
So moved.
Motion from Ms. McGriff.
Second.
All right. Have a motion from Ms. McGriff. A second from Mr. Mosteller. Discussion. Concerns.
Well, the concern is the Dogwood Trail, and I know you're going to say what you're going to do, but I personally have heard other people tell me that we're going to do some things and it doesn't happen, and I'm wanting to know, is there some kind of a legal thing we can do to make sure that happens or not? Is there nothing we can do?
We cannot make it a condition of the rezoning. What I can tell you is that because of this rezoning, our code enforcement staff has been made aware of the problems that are on 137 Dogwood Trail. This does not go forward and allow Mr. Michaud to clean it up. Our code enforcement folks are going to go in and start citing the violations on the site for the current property owner because it needs to get cleaned up. So Mr. Michaud, by purchasing and fencing in this property, is actually doing a better job of what the property looks like right now.
So you don't own the property yet?
No, he can't expand it until he owns it, and he can't expand it without the rezoning, so this is what the proposal.
Is there a driveway on the Dogwood Lane, or what is there?
There's one. But again, the proposal.
But when you put up your private fence, are you going to take that whole driveway up? Well, that'd be fine.
He's got good pictures.
Oh, and another question I got is, if he sells that property, do they have access to Dogwood? Does the new owner have access to Dogwood Trail by right if he takes that up?
Would you hand those to the clerk, hand them to the clerk of council?
Sherry?
So if the property is rezoned and he doesn't join it with his current property, which we would not allow him to do anyway because they're differently zoned. We have a code that says you can't join two pieces of property if they don't have the same zone, so that's part of why he's here. That he could convey it to someone else. The conveyance to someone else would put the onus on the new owner to clean up the property. Again, we don't think that that's going to happen, but we can't promise you that it would never happen. There's just not a way for us to do that.
I understand that. I mean, I'm just trying to work out this, make sure that the access is only through 521 onto the combined property.
Well,
The last picture in there is a picture of my current property, just behind the gate showing the privacy fence.
I know that his current property is well maintained, and it has been as long as I can remember going up through there. I mean, it's I believe he's a man of his word. And from what I see there, I think the neighbors are happy because I don't believe he's got his business. It doesn't seem to be like there's not a lot of noise involved, just a few trucks in and out, and looks like offices and whatever. So I would anything to clean up a area and support a business. They're the ones that pay our bills.
Could he put a deed restriction himself on the deed to the property saying that it would not have access to Dogwood Trail?
He absolutely could do that. We can't make that part of the requirement for the zoning, but he could absolutely do that on his own.
But would the applicant entertain that idea?
And we can't ask him
ask
to do that as part of the reason.
He can.
After he purchases it, but he ain't gonna purchase it until he gets the proper zoning.
Just asked if he would
I have a clarification question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So are the applicants anticipating changing business uses? Because I'm not understanding if it's currently NB, why we're changing it both to RB.
Regional business allows the storage behind the building.
So it's to allow, that's how it would allow storage. NB does not allow that.
NB is for neighborhood businesses which have smaller footprints and have less of a storage impact on a neighborhood.
Okay. So he needs to have the RB to add the storage to his current existing business.
That was my understanding, yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, the property that he has and along 521, it looks real neat and tidy. I mean, so.
We've never been called there for any code enforcement issue. We've been called to other properties on Dogwood, but not this one.
Mike,
I know these pictures show a pretty messy area.
yeah, he definitely, I want to compliment you on your business because it is clean. It is a nice business. It looks fantastic driving through 521. My concern is the same as Mr. Graham's, and it's tied to what Mr. Carnes had said earlier. We already rejected something like this for basically the same reason, because it could potentially be sold as a separate parcel, and that parcel would then be zoned RB and would have access directly to Dogwood Trail, wouldn't have any other access point. That's exactly where it would have to go out. And that concerns me because that's not an access road for a commercial property, I don't think. So I'm just hesitant to do that without some sort of understanding that it can stay.
Well, is Dogwood Trail just like a,
It's a pretty
It's a
small.
Dogwood Trail, a one-lane road.
It's,
they would, if it was another business, they would have issues obtaining permits because probably from access and right of way and all that, they wouldn't be able to, would they?
They could.
To address that.
Yeah, and also that's at the Shelley Mullis intersection, and that's a really busy intersection.
The addition of joining the properties, once the properties are joined, he also loses the address off of Dogwood Trail, especially if he cuts it off like he's planning on doing. So there would be a very difficult time to create anything else there because they wouldn't have an address point. In order to have a building permit, you have to have an address point. The address point would go away, and you'd need to be reinstated. At that point, staff would get involved.
So the address becomes 8123
Yes.
Charlotte Highway for all the property at that
Yes.
point in time.
So that would make it more, I see the attorney looking a little frowning over there. Well, so at that point, it becomes more difficult for the new owner to get access to Dogwood Trail.
Right.
Okay, well, which is what I've been asking kind of.
how difficult would it be to get an address?
They would have to go through the review with 911, which would look at it and say, is there access to the road? And with the fence there, there'd be no access, so there'd be no availability for address off the property.
But if they
But
take,
they would
But if
take
they
a
the fence down, then they would have another discussion. However, with it being one piece of property, you're not automatically entitled to a second address.
Is that a private drive?
It's not a private drive.
No, it's a
County road.
Well, to me, at some point, you have business people or whatever that really invest and take care of what they do, and you've got to have some trust. I mean, we can worst case scenario everything we do, and every once in a while, worst case happens. Like
That's happened to me.
yeah, on Van Wyck Road.
I
But
can tell you the end of Van Wyck Road happened to me.
But with this, I think it's cleaning up a dilapidated property with limited access, and when it's all one parcel, I couldn't see it being sold off.
Even if it did, they went in and another business get in there, they'd still have to bring the road up to standards and make that road 22 foot wide for fire trucks and stuff to get up. So,
You got issues.
yeah,
we would have issues.
yeah.
I would think the neighbors would be more or less pleased to get rid of all of this.
Yeah, they got a good neighbor.
I will say that when this other piece of property came up for rezoning, that we had a crowd from Dogwood Trail here, so if they were not wanting you to do this, they would be sitting in the audience here, so.
They were aware. They called us. They talked to us, but Mr. Michaud talked to them as well.
The issue with the property just to the north is you can't access the rear of the property because if you look at that property closely at the street, there's no access to Dogwood Trail Lane behind it because of the way there's a utility pole on one side, and there's just not room to get behind that building that's there into that property behind it.
Yeah, when they applied for the rezoning, I went by and looked at that, and because that was my thoughts, is why don't they use their side? But then there's a utility pole sitting right in the middle of there, so there's no access to the back of it.
That's exactly right.
All right, any more questions? Discussion? Hearing none. I think we're ready to vote on first reading of ordinance 2024-1937. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like we have unanimous approval of first reading of ordinance 2024-1937. Is there any reason that you would like to leave this on non-consent?
Leave it on non-consent.
Non-consent.
On consent in case some of the residents
In
may
case.
listen to it and want to come speak.
Thank you. So we will keep this on non-consent. All right, at 8:18, I need a motion to go into executive session
So
for the
moved.
receipt of legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding a potential contractual matter related to an economic development project, Care America Corporation, and the receipt of legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding potential contractual matters related to the county fire districts, and invite our economic development staff into executive session to discuss the first matter.
I don't think they're here, so
So moved.
I make a motion, we go into executive session for the above outlined reasons.
Motion,
Second.
and second for Mr. Louise. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. We are now in executive session. You know when we're ready.
Oops, I missed one. There you go.
It's 9:02, and I'd like to call this meeting of Lancaster County Council back to order. Could I have a motion to come out of executive session, please?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Ms. McGriff, a second from Mr. Carnes. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval to come out of executive session.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, council met in executive session in regards to 2 items: the receipt of legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding a potential contractual matter relating to an economic development project, Kier America Corporation, and the receipt of legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding potential contractual matters relating to county fire districts. No motions were made, no votes were taken.
Thank you, Ms. Merck DuPont. It's now 9:03 p.m., and I would like to have a motion before 9:04 to adjourn.
So moved.
Who gave the motion? Mr. Louise, and a second. Mr. Graham. All in favor, raise your right hand. This meeting is now adjourned.
Okay.